A Fox News alert: the judge in the murder-for-hire retrial of Dalia Dippolito has just declared a mistrial. The Florida woman is accused of trying to hire a hitman to kill her husband back in 2009. She was found guilty of that in 2011, but her conviction was overturned on appeal. The jury in this trial deadlocked after 9 hours of deliberation over 2 days. Greg Jarrett, Fox News anchor, attorney, joins us live from our New York City newsroom. Here, we're just talking about the case yesterday. Greg, are you surprised that the judge declared a mistrial so soon?
Well, I am a little bit, and here's why. Now, remember, not 12 jurors here in Florida. It's 6 jurors. There were 4 women and 2 men. And so it really cuts the deliberation time in half. And here, the juror sent a note that said we're hopelessly deadlocked. And apparently there was a single juror who was unwilling to vote to convict. It's a little bit unclear whether the judge issued what's called an Allen charge or a dynamite charge to the jurors, basically urging them to reconsider, and if there's a lone holdout, you should consider the fact that you're all by yourself and your colleagues on the jury are unpersuaded. That's called a dynamite charge, to try to dislodge that single juror. It's unclear whether the judge actually gave that dynamite charge today. He might have simply been convinced by the note that the jurors sent to him, and then questioning the jurors that there was no way that anything was going to dislodge that one juror, so he declared a mistrial.
So as we talked about this case quite a bit on this program, our viewers will be familiar with it, Greg, as we talked about the sting operation, more or less, that police has set up, and there was a lot of questions about that, and that was the crux of the argument from the defense, that this was a police department, in their words, that was out of control, that was seeking fame, and violated this woman's civil rights. Do you think it was the strength of the defense's argument in this case? Was there a lack of evidence from the prosecution? What do you think was the issue that led to a mistrial?
Well, I do think that it was a very effective ploy by the defense attorney, Brian Claypool, and his colleagues on the defense team to put the police on trial. You know, typically you're going to find some people that, you know, for whatever reason, don't trust cops, don't believe in them, are skeptical of what they say. And here, you know, the defense said, look, these people framed my client because they were interested in television fame in an episode of Cops. They were going to throw a viewing party. They posted immediately before the case was closed on YouTube some of the videotape that took place undercover. And this was all wrapped around entrapment, which is coercion to induce somebody to commit a crime they otherwise wouldn't commit. The judge refused a jury instruction on entrapment, but the defense argued it anyway. They're allowed to do that. And who knows, they may have convinced one juror.
Let me just fill this in a little bit, too, for our viewers, that this woman was basically a newlywed, Dalia Dippolito, and she was cheating on her husband. The man that she was cheating on her husband with went to cops and said, you know, I think she wants to kill her husband. But, but he also said that he wasn't completely convinced that she was going to do it. We thought she wanted him dead. So he became the cop's informant. So that was part of the trial. As we look back in the last several years, here she's been on trial for years, Greg, and this trial ends in a mistrial. So do you think it happened? We go a third round on this? Where do you think this goes from here?
There's no limit under the law. You could be tried multiple times in the event of a mistrial. Double jeopardy does not attach unless there's a conviction. Now, at some point in time, one of two things happens. The prosecution finally throws in the towel and said, look, we're wasting taxpayers' money. We're not going to get a conviction. Or a judge can step in and say no reasonable jury can reach a verdict, and therefore the judge issues what's known as a directed verdict of not guilty. Now, are either of those two things going to happen? My guess is no. I suspect prosecutors will retry Dalia Dippolito all over again. And, you know, both sides learn a lot from a trial. For example, in the second trial, they didn't call the husband to the witness stand, a nefarious character tied to the mob who did a couple of years behind bars for stealing people's money in a scam investment. And the defense ended up calling the lover who first turned her in because he was a sympathetic witness as prosecutors found out in the first trial, so they didn't call him in the second trial. So lots happens in the second and third trials that are different. So we'll wait and see what happens.
Wow, very interesting. Again, Brian Claypool led the defense. He's often a guest of our show, so I'll be curious to talk to him if he's able to.
He's a really great defense attorney, and this proves it.
Yeah, absolutely. Greg, we'll see where it goes from here. Thank you for the analysis, though, on that breaking news. Appreciate it very much. Eric?